No one around cares. Are they still laughing at Golden State anymore? And perhaps that's exactly why these next few months feel very dangerous. When a team spends years setting the standard, people notice immediately when the edge starts slipping. The Warriors are sitting in that uncomfortable space right now, caught between what they used to be and what they still believe they can become. The record doesn't match the name, the rating doesn't match the talent, and every night Steph Curry walks the floor, it feels like the weight of an entire era is on his shoulders. That's why the noise in the front, the office started to get noisier. It's not normal transactional market talk, not the kind of rumors that dissipate in 2 days, but the kind of talk that makes people around the NBA stop and look twice. The idea being kicked around is huge. Golden State is investigating whether there is any real path for hiring Joel Embiid to get Philadelphia to the point where it starts to think more about the future than the present. And the second you hear this name associated with the Warriors, everything changes. You're no longer talking about a small repair or a bench adjustment. You're talking about one last full adjustment in a balance sheet built around Steven, while there's still time for that to make a difference. On the court, you can already see why people within basketball keep coming back to that possibility. Curry destabilizes defenses before possession even begins. Embiid punishes teams, depending on whether he receives a deep position or catches the ball in space. Put those two in the same action, and defensive covers start to crumble fast. If a big shot falls, Steph will have room to spare. If defenders jump on Curry, Embo gets a runway in the middle of the floor where he becomes a nightmare. And if help is delayed, that's where it all starts. Looking bad to your opponent. That's why the idea of this couple is giving people so much to talk about? Seriously, it's not. It's simply star power. It's adjustment, pressure, and the kind of offensive pressure that can tip a playoff series. Warriors fans, subscribe to the channel because we follow every move this team makes during the season and the offseason. But here's where the whole thing starts to get interesting. Tense, because no one in the Bay Area is ignoring the other side of this. Embiid is still one of the most dominant players in the sport when he's right, but everyone knows the question that accompanies him. Cheers. Availability, durability, when the season gets intense. This is exactly the part that divides the fan base right down the middle. One side sees a rare opportunity to give Curry another real title window. The other sees a contract, a history of injuries, and the possibility of locking up turning the franchise into a gamble that could have been hit hard for years. And that's the pressure on Golden State is extremely high right now. Standing still seems risky, but acting too aggressively can be even riskier. Right, Curry deserves another chance, if you believe this franchise owes him one more serious shot at a championship. Because this is no longer just a rumor. This is about what kind of result the Warriors are willing to strive for while the clock is still ticking on one of the greatest players the sport has ever seen. And the part that should make all Warriors fans pay close attention is that this might not have the full picture yet, because there are people around the league who believe Golden State might be eyeing something even bigger as the off-season starts to open up. Because when you start looking beyond the headline, in and of itself, the situation gets even better, more complicated. A move like this wouldn't happen in isolation. To sign a player at Embiid's level, the Warriors would almost certainly have to cut down on the few flexibility pieces they still have options left. Young talent, future first-round picks, rotation options, maybe even players the coaching staff still sees as part of the next bridge era after Curry. That's when it stops being fantasy and starts to seem real. Golden State would be making a decision about whether the next 5 to 7 years matter less than the next 1 or 2. And this question hurts more because the current version of the team showed both signs at the same time. There are nights when the Warriors still look sharp, connected, dangerous, as if the old instincts were still there, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Then there are games in which age makes itself felt. The legs are no longer the same. The bench seems fragile, and the margin for error disappears at halftime. This inconsistency is exactly why so many people believe in the board. You can't start another T waiting for internal improvements to solve everything. Hope isn't everything. A plan when your star player is still good enough to single-handedly turn the tide of a playoff series. What makes this even more interesting is how behind the scenes around the league are evaluating the Warriors right now. There is a growing belief that Golden State has stopped thinking small. The patient approach, the two-vision, The idea of balancing the present and the future simultaneously that no longer seems to be the priority. Not with Curry still wielding that level of offensive influence. Not with the West getting younger, faster, and less tolerant. If the Warriors are serious, then the next step can't be about survival. It has to be about threatening everyone at the conference again. That's why names besides Embiid keep coming up in these conversations and why the front office is under so much pressure to sign him. Exactly. A bold negotiation can completely change the climate of the organization overnight. A bad player can hurt the entire team. And for a franchise that has built its identity on trust, innovation, and nerves of steel, this is one of those moments when hesitation can be as costly as failure. The fans feel it. The building feels it. You can tell that people know this summer isn't going to happen. Comment, the dynasty isn't over. If you still believe Golden State has another real talent, run left and subscribe right now, because this is exactly the kind of story that changes quickly. A front office call, a leak, a major decision, and the overall direction of the Warriors changes, if you want the next layer anything we have discussed so far. And the truth is that there is still a part of this situation that has not been fully analyzed yet. If the Warriors decide to swing this as a big deal, it won't just be about finding another star. It will be about choosing the kind of pressure they are willing to live with, the kind of risk they are willing to take, and the kind of ending they want attached to Steph Curry's final championship window. And this choice says a lot about the direction this organization is taking. It believes it is still in the league, because if Golden State moves forward with a move like this, it will be admitting something without ever saying it out loud. The margin is over. There is no more time to wait for the perfect moment. No more pretending that the roster is just a small adjustment away. No more comfort in maintaining a respectable position as the conference becomes increasingly competitive. A franchise that spent years dictating the rules for the rest of the NBA is now faced with a reality where urgency has taken over the environment. You can feel this urgency whenever the conversation turns to Steph. He is still the center of everything that matters here. Defenses still panic when he repositions himself, still overreact when he has a small gap in the defense, still treat him as the most dangerous player on the court, even on nights when his legs look tired. That's what makes it look tired. This whole situation is emotionally difficult for me. Many people around the team. Players like this do not happen twice. The Warriors know exactly what they have, and that's why the idea of wasting another season doesn't even bother those who have it that much. I've followed this era from the beginning. At the same time, this is where boards gain or lose their reputation. Anyone can mention a big name and call it ambition. The difficulty is knowing whether this bet really paves the way for the title or not. It's just a louder version of the same problem. Embiid changes the defense the instant he touches the ball, but building a truly competitive team around two stars with high expectations requires more than headlines. It requires health, synchrony, depth in the cast, and the right supporting pieces around them. If Golden State goes this route, the pressure wouldn't wait for the playoffs. It would start the moment the agreement was made official, because every possession, every game lost, every bad phase would be judged from the perspective of what they gave up to make it happen. And there's another layer that fans shouldn't ignore. Across the league, when teams realize that a franchise is desperate to maximize an ever-shrinking window of opportunity, the price goes up. Rivals stop negotiating politely. They start asking for more draft picks, more young talent, more control over the future. Turo. That's the danger zone. The Warriors aren't just evaluating whether Embiid is worth it. They are evaluating whether the version of the trade they would actually have to accept still leaves enough room on Curry to make the gamble worth it. This part matters as much as the famous name associated with the rumor. Right, Abaya still believes, if you think this team can still upset the entire league. And subscribe now, because this is one of those times when being late means missing out on the opportunity before everyone else notices. When the real details start to emerge, when the big names start to take hold, when the direction of this franchise becomes impossible to ignore, you'll want to be here before someone else hears about it. If you want to stay ahead of every Warriors update, rumor, and breaking story, hit subscribe now and join the community. Because this is where the story starts to get really interesting. If the Warriors accept the cost, health risk, and pressure that comes with a move like this, the next question won't be whether it would be bold enough. The next question is whether a bombshell signing would be the complete solution or just the first. A domino effect in a summer that could completely reshape the balance of power in the West. because if Golden State opens that door, it might not stop at a single move. That's what makes everything seem bigger than a simple rumor. This could be the summer where the Warriors decide that preserving the future matters less than giving Curry one last roster that could go on a playoff series and scare everyone. This type of mentality changes everything, and when a board starts thinking this way, the league starts to watch very closely. Comment, with Steph until the end, if you believe that this franchise still owes you one more real chance. And subscribe right now, because on this channel you stay up to date with the news, instead of having to catch up after it has already happened. The Warriors' next update could change everything. The whole conversation revolves around this team, and you won't want to miss the moment when Golden State decides whether to protect what's left or risk everything for another campaign.